most of the time. Left Alaman and then no side.
Here we go, another Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight, I have a gentleman who is in Arizona. He's going to tell you where and where he's from and everything else. Tonight, I have Mike Sikorsky. How are you, sir?
Doing just fine, Charlie. How about yourself?
Very well, sir. It's great to see you again. We get to run into each other, whether it be a national convention or a CALLERLAB convention, since you are in Arizona. So tonight, we're going to talk about you, Mike. You're in Arizona. Where are you at in Arizona right now?
Apache Junction. So that'll be on the east side of the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix being in the center. And so you're looking at a part of the mountains that are it's part of the Superstition Mountain area kind of thing. We have some nice pictures out our back window at our back porch, at the mountain there. I really like it out here in the desert East Valley. We're on the plains of the mountains. It's really beautiful out here.
Very nice. I've had once or twice I've passed through parts of Arizona. It's quite nice out there. Now, how long you been out there where you are now?
We've been in this house about 2 years, but I call it 2.5 years at this point. I actually moved to Arizona in 1992, just as a winter thing, and fully to Arizona in 1995. Moved out here that was Mesa. And so moved out here to Apache Junction in 2001. Actually had a house built in a tract and sold out a few years ago. And Janet and I moved here to this house.
Outstanding. Now, okay, and I try and get everybody. Where were you born?
Go Chiefs, Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri. All right.
Yeah, first 9 years of my life I spent there.
All right. So you're in Arizona now. You're in Kansas City. Where'd you spend your childhood and all that going through?
Well, of course, 9 years of my life, I started elementary school there. And for employment reasons, we moved to Southern California.
Okay.
And so that's mostly where I went to San Fernando Valley, lived in it's now called North Hills. It was called Sepulveda after the Spanish conquistador, Francisco Sepulveda. Gotcha. And so in any case, so I did my high school, did my junior college at LA City College, and Cal State Northridge is where I got my upper division. So everything in the San Fernando Valley, but then moved to Tustin, just south of Disneyland.
Okay.
About 1980. And lived there until I went to Arizona in 95.
So we do the square dancing on this. So I ask everybody, when did you start dancing? When did you run into square dancing?
My first experience in square dancing was 5th grade with a Jonesy Jones record, Oh Johnny Oh, and Hot Time in the Old Town Tonight was on the flip side of that 78 we danced to.
Nice. Okay.
And then didn't really know of it again until I was at my cousin's wedding and I was 15 years old. And I remember that because that was summer and let's see, how'd that go? In any case, I was very close to getting my driver's permit at age 15 and a half. Right. Very close. And so in any case, at the reception, the band quit and the club square dance caller was there for the youth club because one of the square dancers was the little brother of the groom.
Okay.
And so they squared up and they ran up and asked me if I'd like to learn to square dance right after they danced a tip. And I said, yeah, sounds great. I'd like to try it. And I found out, now that would have been 1969.
Okay.
So I found out in about 2018 that I'd been set up.
How'd that happen?
It just so happens that while they were square dancing, for some reason, this young lady's mom and my mom sat next to each other at a table.
Gotcha.
And as they were square dancing, my mom apparently said to this other mom, oh, I wish Mike could get interested in something like that. All he talks about is baseball. I had a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, Charlie. Why would I think about anything else?
We've got some more to talk about tonight then. Continue, sir.
So anyway, and the lady said, well, do you think Mike would like it? And my mom said, well, no, ask him. Well, now, she didn't come up and ask me. She went up and asked her cute daughter my age to come up and ask me. So she brought the whole club up there. They all ran up and asked me if I want to learn how to square dance. And I said yes. And so went to the class. And second night of class, I looked up on stage, saw the caller, and thought, you know what, that looks like fun.
Nice.
So here I am.
So when did it get you? When do you remember doing your first call, or who was talking to you? Who said, hey, take the microphone?
Well, I said take the microphone because I decided just looking at the stage.
Okay.
I started hanging out with people, not the least of which was Mike Sikorsky, helped me immensely early in my career.
Okay.
And maybe I shouldn't say that because I make him sound like he's a whole lot older than I am, and he's really not.
Okay.
He started calling like when he was 11 or something. I think it's kind of cheating, but that's okay. That's okay. So anyway, I called guest tips at dances. Well, it was July 7th, 1972. It was a Friday, and I got a call at 10 o'clock in the morning, still living with my parents, just graduated high school, the month before. And so they said, hey, your buddy Larry's on the phone. So we got on the phone. He said, hey, you want to call a dance tonight? I said, well, I'd love to call a dance for you, but I've never called a whole dance. Wow. He said, well, he says, our dance is tonight. We forgot to get another caller, and our club caller is the father of the groom and the bride are in the club, and the dress rehearsal and family meal and all of that is tonight. The wedding's tomorrow, and why don't you just come on out and just practice on us, and we'll have a square so you can have some fun. Man. So that was my first full dance, but that's only the beginning of the story, you see. So as Paul Harvey would say, here's the rest of the story.
All right, let's have it.
3 clubs sprang surprise visitations, so I had 11 squares at my first dance. And I had studied so much material in my first couple of years, I thought if I put one more thing in my left ear, something would fall out of my right ear. I called everything I knew in the first 2 tips. And I walked up to the club president. He said I was white as a sheet. I said, I just called everything I know. What do I do now? He put his hands on my shoulders, whack, and said, start over. Yep. I think I started over 4 more times.
Very nice.
That was my first dance. Oh, yes, I remember everything about it. I remember that was before the days of 7-Elevens and all-night markets. And so when you plan refreshments for 1 square and you have 11, you have donuts that are cut in 8ths. And punch had being administered in Dixie cups with an eyedropper.
Very nice. You remember some of those singing calls you did?
Oh boy, not that night. I was too shell-shocked. Mm-hmm. I do know the first singing call I ever did in public was the auctioneer.
Wow. Okay.
I practiced it every day for 9 months. And I did it. It was pretty flawless. I mean, I did the whole thing. So that was an afternoon dance. And then that night, I called that one again, and somebody said, well, you know Riverboat, don't you? This old Riverboat, the old Gren record. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so I did that. So I did auctioneer that afternoon, and then that night I did the club dance, the teen club. I did the 2 songs, the auctioneer and Riverboat. I do remember the first singing call I ever recorded. That would have been in 1973. That was the next year.
What was that?
Bob Fisk got me that recording deal, and that was When My Blue Moon Turns to Gold.
Nice. When My Blue Moon Turns to Gold. I try and write all of them down. So now, you've recorded several, obviously. What's some of your favorite singing calls?
Ooh, I think I'm
not asking you to pick out certain one, but if somebody said, "Hey, glad you came by the club tonight," what are you going to do?
Oh, well, that would depend on the level, depend on the style of the caller that I was going to be there, because I want to contribute. I'm calling a tip. I want to contribute to the program.
Okay.
And so that I kind of situationally. So a couple of favorite ones that I recorded over the years. I think we got the best square dance cut ever of Ghost Riders in the Sky.
I agree. Yes, sir.
I think that's the best one that's ever been done, square dancing. So that was a good one. I still go back and do Me and You and a Dog Named Boo. That fills just about anywhere you need it. People sing along with it.
All right.
And they're just really good. So those are a couple of my favorites. And when I'm doing my own dance, most of the time I finish with See You Later, Alligator.
Okay.
By then I've got my own music label, and so that's on my label.
Tell me about your music label.
That's Mesa Apache Productions, known as MAP. And you can find it on musicforcallers.com and click on it. It'll take you to my site. Or you can go to mapmusic.biz. Or it's actually also a tab on my regular website, which is azcaller.com. So any of those ways you can get to mapmusic.biz. And so it's theirs. There's some others there that I produced. So more recently, it was I've had a lot of good luck at dances with Heart on Fire was an Eric Church song.
Yeah. Okay. I know Eric Church very well. That's good stuff.
Yeah, so that one came out real good. And so right now we've got one in the works. Unfortunately, my studio musician has been kind of laid up. He had 17 teeth pulled recently.
Oh,
so
that will lay you up a little bit. Yeah.
He was pretty drugged out for a while. So he's going to get to work on it. I'm going to produce the Kenny Rogers song, The Greatest. You remember that one?
I do remember that song.
So yeah, we're going to produce that as a square dance. My girlfriend challenged me, so that's the one I want you to do.
Okay.
Oh boy, that took a little bit of rearranging to make sure that happened. Yeah. A little bit of creative fill in to get that words in there. I'm a songwriter, so I know how to kind of fill in a few words here and there to complement the story.
Okay. And
not take away and that sort of thing. We're going to produce that. That's next.
Very nice. The Greatest. I'll look for that one myself. Now, so as you're coming up and you've thrown right into calling your own dances. Any callers have any influences on you? Anybody help you along the way that you want to put out there?
Well, I already spoke about Mike Seastrom. I still think
yes, sir.
Finest callers, finest people on the face of the earth. And the one who really took me under his wing that got me the most help over and over and over and over again was Bob Fisk.
Bob Fisk.
So Bob Fisk was just absolutely great to me. And when I was past the tutoring stage like that, been calling about 10 years, the one who really helped me more than anybody else, you could take any other three callers and put them together, and Ken Bauer helped me more than anybody else. Yep. I said, I kind of like to travel, to call and see a few things. I've only been in Southern California, and I travel around a little bit. And everywhere I went, people were saying, hey, Ken Bauer says you're good. When can you come call for us? So, and I do want to tell you a story about that because it was really kind of funny. I was booked to call in Northern California. I might have been for the Concord Stompers. I've forgotten now. But it was what they call East Bay.
Okay.
And I had never called there. And I said, nobody's going to know who I am. I'll just go up there and give my best shot. Maybe I can build a following up there, And I got there and I did the first tip, and I had three people run up and said, man, that singing call you just did, that was fabulous. Ken Bauer did that last week. And then after the second tip, another few dancers ran up and said, man, we like that singing call. Ken Bauer did that last week. That was fabulous. And then it happened on the third tip. And by the fourth tip, this guy's walking up and I go, he says, do you get the joke yet? I said, no. What joke? And he said, we were at Ken Bauer's dance, and he said that you were going to be calling here tonight. He said you were really good, and we should go up and tell you after every tip that singing call was great. Ken Bauer did it last night.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
The dancers couldn't wait to come up and tell me that.
Oh, that's good stuff.
So
I love that story.
5-6 years later, we were calling a dance together up there. By then, that was known, he was known. Had a great time. And I said, I thought it was fun. It was great, but why did you do that? And he said, it got him to your dance, didn't it?
It's good.
That's Ken Bauer.
That's very nice. Yeah, I've only had a couple opportunities to talk with him. I'd love to talk to him some more. And I've done a podcast with Mike Seastrom, awesome guy. Again, I only get to run into most of y'all, whether it be a convention or something, because I'm on the East Coast. So I like to take advantage of these times to hear some of these stories. Now I think at the last national convention, you were doing some stuff with the caller school. What do you do? What kind of stuff do you do with callers and teaching and things like that?
Well, I have two caller schools now that run, and they're annual, and I won't accept more than 8 students, and they both might sell out this year. I'm getting a lot of extra interest. One's in upstate New York.
What are they now? Tell me.
One's called the Mid-Atlantic Caller School, and it's in August, and it's in Gloversville, New York.
Okay.
And it's a hall owned by Elaine McInnes and Dennis Visconti, and bought an old church and refurbished it, made it into a dance facility. So I get to do my caller school there. It's a wonderful place, and got a nice wood floor to dance on, and it's really nice. And the other one is in Crew. I need to kill the phone call. And the other one is in Crew, Virginia. It's that's an hour and a half southwest of Richmond.
Okay.
And if you go through the town, you don't have to go through it. You got to go to it, but don't blink.
Okay.
Yeah, it was actually back in the day a rail stop. So
oh, nice.
It's an interesting little town. They got a nice little hall down there. And so, yeah, we get to do our caller school there. Now, separate from that, and I'm writing because what is a comprehensive guide on how to teach beginners.
Okay.
Is in my 51 years of calling, I don't know of any comprehensive way of teaching modern Western square dancing or telling other people how to do it.
Okay.
So it's people who are on in the subscription, they get every time we have an update, we send it out. I'm still dealing with the first 6 to 8 weeks of beginner's class, and I've just written chapter 2021.
Okay.
So I think the first 8 weeks is where most callers just screw the pooch, and it's just like pulling teeth along the way for a lot of what we have to do. If you get these things done right, I've structured this program so everything's based on muscle memory from the first time they circle left, something they already know how to do so they can do this easier, and just build into it that way. And the one thing I will talk about, because otherwise I'd be talking about it all day.
Okay.
Is other than the initial circle left and Alaman left and right and left grand and promenade home, the first thing they do is circle left. They learn lady center, men's sachet, because the guys are a lot better off if they see everything in front of them. Mm-hmm. So it goes in, the boy goes around, everything goes better. And if you do the half sachet first, you got some club members rolling away, and that screws everything up. So ladies center, men's sachet, the circle, the Alaman left, do, sa, do, right and left grand, maybe swinger. You learn to do that, promenade. After that, they're learning square through right now. Okay. Week 2, head square through 4, and they learn star through. Now, at that point, every caller knows they're in a corner line. Now, once you're in the corner line, everything is taught based on that corner line.
Okay.
So with the calls that have to be done this way religiously without fail, is run, trade, circulate, and cast off. Everything else becomes somewhat variable in where you put it and how you do it and all of that. Those 4, when you get those in place, everything else goes easier. But for the first 10 weeks, all your teaching is based out of the corner line.
Okay.
Of some kind. And one other hint I'll tell you is when they learn cast off, they first are going to learn head square through 4 and centers in. Because that's an inverted line, corner line. Right. Still playing with their corner. You see the similarity?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. And the reason they do their first cast off from there is because everybody gets to walk forward.
Okay.
And just little things like that. And I have great success with this what I've done recently is I've been able to codify it in a way I can write it down and everybody else can do it.
Gotcha.
So I've got a lot of newer callers on this, but I've got some experienced callers looking at this too. So anybody who wants it, it's free. The only thing I ask is you delete any prior versions when you get the new one, because it'll have a new chapter in it. And my girlfriend Janet, who's a whiz at this stuff, she is hyperlinking the entire document.
Okay.
So you can click on anything in the table of contents, it'll take you directly to that chapter. Go to the bottom of any page, bottom right, and it says click here to return to the table of contents, and you go right back to the top of the table of contents.
Okay.
So it's easy to navigate anywhere in the document.
Oh, outstanding.
So anyway, might want to post my email address up there, arizonacaller@gmail.com. They just have to ask to be put on the list.
Okay.
I'll do it. They'll get the next step.
To do that is fantastic. Yeah, because I just and I know we haven't talked a whole lot about the past year. I had my own club that hired me last year, and I've got it coming up again this year. And so I just taught my first mainstream all the way through from beginning to end, and then we're into about the middle of plus now. We're probably 18 calls in, I think. And so I was just going based on schools that I've gone to and the many times that I've angeled was how I was kind of approaching it, and going by the CALLERLAB list of, hey, this is probably the way you should do it. And so I was going that direction, but just the best way to tell somebody and explain star through or square through, that was just something I was just, hey, I remember this guy doing it this way. So something like that is fantastic, dude. And I'll absolutely look into that, and I'll put it on the podcast too. That is great.
Very good. So it's part of, it started with the thought of helping people, because callers who have to take dancers from circle left all the way through load the boat for the plus clubs. And what typically happens is they're so wore out by the time they get to plus, they know the calls, but they don't really learn them very well. And all I have to do is go to a different caller who puts something in one slightly different position or just a different voice, and they break down. And so by the end of the summer, a lot of them drop out. And so they're experiencing 10, 15% retention rates. And with the way I've done it, I'm experiencing anywhere from 60% to 110%, because I have had situations where people have joined and I've graduated and had more dancing than I started with.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
So just as an example, I know of a caller who tried to teach THARs when CALLERLAB said to do it, week 8 or 9 or whatever that is. 2 full beginners nights, and they still didn't understand it.
Right.
I developed this as part of what I call the short plus program. So if you're doing that, you follow my teaching guide for the first 10 weeks. Then you teach kind of how you want to the rest of the calls, but only the prescribed calls, which is in the program I designed, which is SSD minus the calls that came over with Christopher Columbus. Your Alamo ring, no. Do Paso, no. There's a few calls. Now, wheel around, that travesty, no. Not at all. You do not. It's courtesy turn, and they learn that with right and left through on week 2. So, no, you do that, and then you do the designated mainstream. So it's about half, 2/3 of mainstream.
Okay.
No THARs, no 8-chain throughs, no spin the top, because it's only the plus that's in SSD. Because there's a few plus calls in there. Actually, it's mainstream in there.
It is. She's mainstream.
Just a few mainstreams in, right? So then we put plus in, but I only put the calls in that are the most popular. So the concept for a guy like you is to do this, and so let's say you start in September, so you should have this done by the 1st of April. So you invite them into the club, and so the first club dance is at that class level. It's this partial program. But you see, the club members are still going to get to dance, load the boat, relay the Dixie, coordinate, ping pong, circulate, track 2, and the diamonds.
Right.
They're going to be able to do all of that And that comes so much easier. And after I taught those things, and the dancer came to me and said, would you teach us thars? Did somebody call that? Yes. So I did. You know how long it took me to teach alimentif, alimentar, shoot the star, then slip the clutch, skip one, skip two. You know how long it took me to teach that?
Oh,
One tip. And I called it the next tip.
okay.
Because they had all this other chutzpah from all these other calls. So the order in which you do it makes a huge difference.
I agree. Very good.
That's the program. And so as they're in the club and making friends and dancing, the first dance is what I call this short plus program.
Okay.
Then they go back to class. Maybe they learn peel to top. Maybe they learn chase right. So then now when they go back to the club dance, it's short plus those two more calls.
Gotcha.
So little by little, they learn more, you call more. They learn more, you call more of them. So after the next 2 or 3 months, they've got all the rest of the calls in.
Very nice.
But now they're all friends. And now when you graduate them, they're not graduating. They're already part of the club. I already is. I'm a square dancer. I'm a club member. They've joined.
Right.
So it's not a diploma anymore. It's a certificate of thank you. It's a certificate. It's a recognition. We're glad you did this. Thank you for joining us. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
No more graduations. We don't do that.
Okay. Now, as far as that, how high do you call level wise?
Comfortably C2.
C2. Wow. Okay.
I know a little 3A, but yeah.
Okay. Because now down where I am in Georgia, there's one club we talked about earlier before we started recording, Hot Atlanta. They dance A and C some when they have callers that can do it. And because there's very few in this area, in the Atlanta area, I can tell you there's one that can call advanced. I don't think there's anybody that can call C or challenge. So there's just not a lot of it around here, unfortunately. And of course, I couldn't dance it even if somebody could call it to me. I've tried it. I just can't. I've just never gone through it. So, man, I'm going to get on the list for that because I want some of that teaching because my club wants to start a new class in, I think, for mainstream, beginner, SSD level, whatever they want to start at, we'll do, but probably around March, April. So I'm going to get back into it.
The other thing you probably want to do is look up my YouTube channel.
Okay.
To find me, it's the @ Music Man 123.
2, 3. Okay.
And you might scroll down a little bit at this point, but you'll find the video that I did at the Crew Collar School. I did a 30-minute presentation on the first 6 weeks of beginner's class and the important thing to do. So you can see it demonstrated.
Outstanding. I'll link all that in there and put it on when I put this video. Oh man, that's awesome. Man.
So, and the document that I'm writing in this video, it's all free. I'm not charging anything for this.
Well, I don't want to get too far away from it because, and I know you may not have seen some of the videos that I've done. I am a huge baseball fan. So tell me about your baseball.
Oh, my dad had me throwing a baseball when I was 4 years old. And so when I was 8, I was playing shortstop, and I eventually migrated to third base because I wasn't fast, but I was quick.
Okay.
I had an arm, and so I never got involved in high school football, but I did play flag football.
Okay.
And I was always the quarterback. So, even as a 14-year-old, throwing a football 50 yards on the fly was nothing for me. So, and so it's for baseball, it was always a fastball, and I had it moving. I remember I think I was 14 or 15, and it was a hot summer day. That game went like 24 innings.
Jeez, okay.
And back then you didn't have to call it. You just kept playing, and it was like 1-1 or 0-0, And I was tired. I didn't want to pitch, and I said, Mike, we're out of guys, and just get up there and throw. Well, I did, and I threw seven innings of no-hit ball. I walked one batter, just throwing fastballs, and just good location in and around the strike zone. So yeah. So I was a pitcher. I never when I ran, they timed me with a calendar, not a stopwatch.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that was not good. And I ended up not wanting to do baseball because the fastball was good, but the changeup just hung.
Yeah.
And the curveball would bounce in the dirt, and it just no. This was not good. This was not my future.
That was one of my holdbacks. I pitched all the way up through high school and graduated, played some travel ball at the end when I was 18, but I could not throw hard. I could spot pitches. I could throw just about any pitch you want. I could throw breaking balls, sliders, changeups, knuckleball. I was a very good knuckleball pitcher, surprisingly. But that was part of it. My dad too. He told me I ran like water from a faucet. A lot in just one place. Didn't go very far. So once I stepped off the mound, I was about useless as far as baseball. So it after high school, it ended for me. So I like that connection we have there. That's fantastic. So you earlier you said that you wanted to when you were talking to some of these guys, you wanted to travel around. What kind of traveling have you done with your calling?
Oh my goodness sakes! I toured the European continent for 20 years in a row.
Okay.
I started in England, in Britain. I did that for 5 years before that, and then combined it with the other. I did that probably for 25 years. Okay. Dave Abbott got me calling him a cloud dance country in Northern California at the base of Mount Shasta. I did that for 33 summers in a row. And oh my goodness. So I've been, at one point I did I called in Switzerland. I've called in Denmark, Belgium. I've been to Sweden many times. That's usually a different spot in Sweden every time. And that's really special to do that. So more recently, I've been to China twice. I've been to Beijing twice.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm scheduled to go next year to Taiwan for the first time. So all of these are all, I'd rather be lucky than good is the way I look at it.
Sure. Okay.
It's just really, really fortunate. It's kind of, and people wonder how some of these things come about. Well, my first trip to Beijing, apparently it all started with the Chinese Communist government deciding to open up culturally.
Okay.
Square dancing was permitted. And the guy that Charlie Liu was big in getting square dancing going. He was actually lived in Beijing. I think he was born in Taiwan, and they immigrated to mainland China.
Okay.
And so he helped it get going. Well, at one point, all the clubs, square dance clubs in China were 10 years old. And in celebration of what they called their 10th anniversary, and there were 4 associations in Beijing with 4 to 8 clubs in each one. And they decided to form a committee who would then plan the event, get the caller, get the venue, get the flyers out, that sort of thing, advertising. They elected a chairperson of that committee to head that effort. Do you want to know who that chairperson's favorite caller is?
Sure. I'm guessing that's you.
That's how I got to Beijing.
Awesome. Very good.
I did the first one. They did it in competition with the International Dance Festival. So I got to back in there the Coliseum and got to tour that, got to meet all the big wigs and stuff like that. Got to share a little beverage backstage with the premier whiskey maker in China. In American dollars, that bottle went for about $250 a bottle. So yes, so we sampled, and I got the rest of the bottle.
Awesome. That's a great story.
So, yeah. So it's and then we've been back a second time. And if you ever go, the Temple of Heaven is fabulous. Everybody should see that. But you've you've not seen Tijuana on steroids until you've been to Beijing and gone to the Silk Street Marketplace. There's more fake Gucci bags there than you can shake a stick.
No kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great, but there's also a tailor there, Handu, spelled Hangdu, Handu. And he's, I think, on level 3 of this 4-level complex. And I purchased suits there, and you'll go in, you'll get fit. You come back 2 days later and try it on, and they make the final adjustments. You come back the next day, pick it up, and you're gone for about 30% of what you'd pay in America. So yeah, it's they were trying to get us to go back again, but because of the world tensions and stuff at the time when they were asking, we checked trip airfare to go to Taiwan and then Beijing, and American Airlines wanted $45,000 round trip.
Oof, good gracious.
And it actually had come down a couple of weeks ago to $13,000. So we decided maybe this isn't the year to go to Beijing.
Oh, yeah, maybe put it off a year. Good goodness. Oh my gosh. Now, for the people that have seen you, whether it be YouTube, in person, or whatever, when I first saw you, and I don't know, it's been a few years now, and it was on YouTube, I'm guessing, I kind of thought of myself not with calling ability compared to you. You move around a lot and do a lot of dancing while you're singing. And I thought, I'm a lot like that guy right there. Didn't know who you were at the time, because I have a habit of, I get a little into the songs. Back when we used to use records, one of my little stories is me and my buddy, we were doing a duet over in Kennesaw, and I got into, I think it was I Don't Need Your Rocking Chair. And I was stomping so hard that the needle was skipping, and we lost place on, and I thought, well, I got to stop doing that. So what was that, just something you've always done?
No, I basically watching me was like watching grass grow for about the first 10 years of my calling. Okay. But I decided that wasn't so fun. So I started watching other people and see what they're doing. And so I did that for years. But as I got a little older, I found that I was falling off stages. And when I was younger, I could get back up again. I can still fall like I did when I was younger, but I just don't get up like I used to.
Sure, okay.
Now with this one eye thing, I mean, I'd have no depth perception. I'm not sure where the edge is.
Okay, that makes sense.
And right at this COVID let up, I was calling up in the Kitsap Peninsula west of Tacoma, Washington. And there's a stage, and that stage is 4 foot up. I walked right off of it in the middle of the tip.
No kidding, geez.
And my first thought was, man, this was dumb. My second thought was, land like a cat. Now, I had enough sense to let go of the mic and just be concerned with my body. So the mic went. I came down like a cat, stood up, did my quick little check. Everything's fine. Picked up the mic, put it back on the stage, walked around, picked it up, started calling again. Wow. So that's my theory. If you fall like a cat.
Fall like a cat. All right.
If you can't fall like a cat, tuck and roll. I learned that as a kid playing flag football. Tuck and roll.
That's good stuff. Oh my goodness, man. Yeah, I didn't know about the falling off the stage, but like I said, I used to see it, and of course, always, for the most part, always wearing a sports coat. And I thought, well, that's a good look, so I tried to do that on occasion. So always well dressed and all over the stage. And I thought, I think I'm a lot like that guy. Of course, you're a much better singer than I am. I saw that immediately also. But I thought, yeah, I'm going to be like that guy dancing on stage. I really like that.
To me, it's all about the show and making sure they have so much fun they can't wait to get back to your next dance. Agreed. And so whatever that takes to get that done. Most callers think that all you have to do is do it with choreography.
Sure.
And choreography has its place. It does. Smooth dancing, making sure things flow. I'm doing a presentation on modules at the National Convention, and my focus is going to be on flow modules, because there's a lot of callers trying to side call. A good side calls probably just a little under 50% of the time, because the rest of it, they're using flow modules to get you from point A to point B because they know it works from here to here. Everybody does it. It flows, and I can glance over the whole floor while I'm doing those. And that helps to keep everybody going. So that's going to be my focus at the,
Okay.
at the national.
I'll look forward to being in on that one. What do you do regular? I mean, do you have some clubs or what, like for a regular week or so, month for you? What is that?
Well, we'll have to divide that in when I'm doing the winter season here in Arizona and when they all left to go back to Minnesota and Iowa.
Okay.
So, and more, there's people staying here, particularly at the advanced level.
Mm-hmm.
So a week for me. Okay, so this is Sunday evening, so I wouldn't have a dance on Sunday. Haven't done that for years. And tomorrow afternoon, I have 3:30 to 5:30. We're doing a plus dance where we're doing only the plus calls that I've taught in my Wednesday morning class. So I'm building that into a full plus program at this resort that just reintroduced square dancing. So I'm going to start a beginner class for them also. And it's, again, resort. It's a RV park, it's a mobile home park. It's a winter thing, basically.
Okay.
So that's Monday. Tuesday, I will do a 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning C1 dance. I'll pack up and drive. We'll drive 10 miles and to Las Palmas Grande, my favorite place, and they will do we'll do an A2. Then I've got to pack up, and I got an hour to pack up and get from there and set up at another place, which is actually a resort called Viewpoint in their North Hall. Mm-hmm. And then I do C2 from 4 to 6. So, and then Wednesday is a 9:30, 11:30 in the morning at one place, then go to another place and do a C1 workshop 1 to 3. Back to Viewpoint North to do an A1 class 4 to 6. Thursday is usually a chiropractor, and it's a Chinese doctor who's doing acupuncture on me and all kinds of, whatever other doctor appointment we've got. Those are Thursday. Thursday's usually doctor day.
Gotcha.
And then Friday is my busiest day, always has been. I do a 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning, a 1 to 3. And then I have this regular club I call for all winter long. So 5:30 to 7 is their beginner's class. 7 to 9 is their club dance.
Jeez.
That's a winter season week for me. And summer is completely unpredictable. I mean, I've got regular stuff I do. There's a thing will drop out, new stuff that gets added.
Okay.
I got the 2 collar schools. We got a cruise coming up this summer.
Oh, what's your cruise? Tell me about the cruise.
The 9-nighter. We're going to leave out of New Jersey. Cape Liberty, we're going north. We're going to stop in Boston. We're going to stop in Portland, Maine. We're going up to, New Brunswick.
Is that Newfoundland, Canada?
Yeah.
That's the Newfoundland one? Okay.
Yeah, and then we finish in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
I'm back. And we've got almost 4 squares signed up already, and we just posted that a month or so. And we had a 16-night Southern Caribbean, and Royal Caribbean canceled the route.
Okay.
And so, we're scrambling around, and Janet actually found this cruise, and it looked kind of interesting. And turns out there's a lot of people that have not been to any of these ports, particularly the 2 Canadian ones. So,
on a side note on that, and I that's the first I've heard of that one with you, a square dance tour, because my mother's family are all from Newfoundland, Canada, in St. John's. And so my brother and I, it's just me and my brother. My brother and I have always talked about wanting to go. We've been once to Newfoundland when we were 10 years old, 10 and 8. We've always wanted to go back. And so we've talked to my wife and his wife, and hey, and we found that cruise, the one you're talking about, just to go and do the cruise. The fact that you're having a square dance cruise on that, I think I can. Now, my brother's not a square dancer, but I think I might get pushed to get onto that one and do both the Newfoundland part of it and the square dance. That's awesome, Mike. I appreciate that, buddy.
Well, we love to have you join us. So we have a cruise page for our stuff. There's also a Facebook page, Square Dance Cruises. So there's plenty of cruises, including ours, where the flyers are posted there.
Never
That's
heard
fairly
of
new.
it. Square Dance Cruises. All right, I'll take a look at that tonight, brother.
Our cruise site is cruisewithmike.com. And it's a tab also on my regular web page. But if you go to cruisewithmike.com, it'll take you directly there. And what we want everybody to do that's interested is sign up for the email list, because we'll send out any updates that are important regarding the cruise line, availability of certain shore excursions. They're 60 days out. We'll send out an email requesting what levels do you want to dance.
Gotcha.
And get an idea, and then program the dancing accordingly.
Man, that is awesome, Mike. It's good stuff. I didn't expect all this tonight, man. This is a hell of a time for me. So
Cool.
One thing I do ask all the callers too, some do, some don't. Do you have a favorite call that you just like to call?
I learned a lesson a long time ago. There was an old Dodger pitcher whose only claim to fame, his name's Al Downey's only claim to fame was he threw the ball that Hank Aaron hit for the home run for number 715. And he was doing one of those meet and greets. And as a youth baseball player, I was there, and somebody asked him what his favorite pitch was. And he said, "My favorite pitch is a strike."
Okay.
So I would have to say that my favorite call is one that makes the dancer smile and want to come back to the next dance I call.
Good answer. Good answer, brother.
That's my favorite.
Make the dancer smile. Yes, sir. Because that is it. And I've talked to a lot of callers at this point, not so much on the podcast, but just I go to a lot of conventions and everything now in the past few years. And it's the calling, it's the choreography, sure. It's the ability to sing. You don't have to have the ability to sing. You just have the ability to put it together, and timing is the big part. But It's an entertainer. It's an all-around entertainer, because there are some callers that are just phenomenal when it comes to choreography. But then I'll say, well, I like this guy as a singer better than I do that guy as a singer, but he's a better So you've got to be a well-rounded entertainer. So it's everything, and making the dancer smile is part of it, because that's one thing.
To me, that's the end game.
It is.
The laughter, the fun. I mean, I think the effect is beginning to fade, but I notice everywhere I've gone, if they have a class, it's larger. Some places are having classes that haven't had one for a while. If they do have one, it's larger. But people are starting to get back to pre-COVID, some kind of normal. Mm-hmm. And that effect, I think, is going to fade. But we got some people in. Unfortunately, I started teaching right away. And so I was able to get people in and have them. There's a couple that I thought would really never get it. And they're back this time, and they big said to lay off for health reasons and family reasons. And now they're doing it, and they're catching on, and everything's fine. There was a couple I thought was more interested in ballroom than square dancing, but after starting with me, they went back to Minnesota. They're in southeastern Minnesota, and there are apparently some clubs there and callers. They're dancing 4 times a month, and so they're doing mainstream and have learned most of plus, but don't really know it all yet. So they've become full-fledged square dancers, and I didn't think that had happened. But my favorite story is after I taught my first class for this club. And we started in January, so I barely got through SSD by the end of March. And I'm at the National Convention in Evansville, Indiana. And if you were there and you go to the SSD hall, it was a couple of meeting rooms that they'd opened up the wall in between. And you walk in the room, callers on a riser in front of you. There's a little table over to the right for you to put out your computer and get your mic out and get ready to call next. And all the dancers are on the left. So I'm turned and I'm getting my stuff ready, and I've got my computer out, got it turned on, and got my mic out, and a hand goes on my shoulder, and in my right ear, this guy says, "Keep it simple." And I turned around, and it was a couple that I taught to square dance in Arizona.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I said, "Wow." I said, "Where do you?" He said, "We live in Wisconsin." I said, "How'd you get here?" Well, the wife saw the flyer and said, "Let's go." So yeah, it took us about 8 hours to get here. That wasn't too bad.
That's
First
not,
year of dancing, barely no SSD, and they drove 8 hours to go to the National Square Dance Convention. I call that a square dancer.
that is, and that has something to do with what you instilled into them when they were starting out and learning.
And the club helped out a lot because the class was free, but they paid for the club dance. And it's on, you remember I said it was on the same night, 5:30 to 7, club 7 to 9. Well, this year, as of week 2, I think it was, the president wanted me to have the class members stay and dance the first club tip. So already they're making friends and dancing with the other club members because they're not all there for the class, you know.
Right.
It starts at 5:30. Some people still have other things going on. They can't get there that early. So yeah, and they start making friends right away. And that's a big part of the success, I think.
Sure it is. It absolutely is. I agree. Well, Mike, about you, when we were talking, and most of your life has been in square dance at this point, from 15 years old and up. If you're not listening to square dance music, what kind of music genres are what your favorites?
Country.
Country, okay.
Modern country.
When you say modern country, give me a name of modern country. What do you say that is?
Oh, I say today's country. So my girlfriend, she has the highway. She has Sirius XM.
Okay. Yep, the highway. I know that one. That Sirius one.
I'm going to go back to a regular blurred background because my hair's dancing around, and this virtual background was pretty to look at, but I'm driving myself nuts with that. So yeah, so I listen to today's country. I'm a songwriter. I think if anybody's been around me, they know I've been doing this for years. I've several trips to Nashville. I've sung at these writers' nights, and I've co-written and gone to these classes and done everything I can to learn. Well, I wrote this song and put out the radio myself back in 1992. Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer.
Okay.
And I mean, we had stations playing it like crazy. I mean, they were the big major markets. They wouldn't touch it. They're all top 20.
Right.
But if it was mid-market, I got airplay in Des Moines. I got airplay in Kansas City, Atlanta. I got airplay there.
Okay.
It calls around because we had postcards. You could send stamped, self-addressed. They could fill it out and check there, say, yeah, we're playing the song. So I'd give them a call. I called a station in Albany, New York, and they said, you get your band here, you play here. We've got an 18,000 seat stadium, and we'll sell it out for you. You get here. I said, well, I wish I could, but I'm calling square dances full time, and I don't really have a band. So that was cool. And the fun part of the whole thing is we did the sweatshirts. I just saw Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer sweatshirt, the official original sweatshirt for sale on eBay for $100. I sold it.
I'll have to look into that.
$100.
Very nice.
We did the t-shirts. We did that. So I did the cassette giveaways. I had stations that would play Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer right after Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Right. Gotcha.
And then if they were still playing in January, they'd play Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer, and then they'd play Take This Job and Shove It. So they're all kinds of goofy things. And I'd call these station people, and if they were playing it like crazy, I'd call and make sure they got all the promo materials. I sent them. Yeah, we did. Would you like an autographed picture of me and Bradley with our autographs on it? And they're like, sure. How does a reindeer sign an autograph, right? A cartoon reindeer. And so I'd send it to him, and I had this black and white picture of me in this black and white drawing of Bradley posing with the guitar with the strings broken and an antler broken, the silly look on his face. And I autographed my side. There was a big black splotch on his side. And there's only one DJ music director that actually understood the joke. He was in Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. And I called him and I said, did you get the picture I sent you? Yeah. And by the way, I did it landscape. So you had a picture and a picture, and I had it scored or creased in the middle so they could crease it, set it on their desk. And I autographed and I said, you see Bradley's picture? You know what that black splotch is? And that music director in Austin was the only one that got the joke. He said, that's a hoof print. Reindeer can't write. I said,
Good.
you got to know. You're the only one.
That's awesome.
You're the only one. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. That winter of '92, that was before free cell phone minutes. With all the promos I did and the phone calls and stuff, I spent a little over $6,000 promoting that song, and I made $146 in royalties. So I think we should understand how hard record promotion really is.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Gosh. Well, you got some shirts out there. You're just not getting any royalties from them.
Right. A lot of warm people.
Yeah.
Look at sweatshirts.
Oh. Well, I've got a lot of work to do after we get off tonight. I had no idea all this stuff, man. You've given me a ton of stuff. I tell everybody when I started doing this, it started out talking to callers so they could tell their stories. Your Bradley, the brown-nosed reindeer story, your story about falling off a stage, just, funny things like that, things that you've gone through. But this is a caller school for me as much as it is for the other people that are listening if they want it to be. And that being said, because I pick up on this and that, and do you have any advice for callers? And the way I put it is a caller that has never picked up a mic, thinking about it, or somebody who's got 10 or 12 years like myself. What's any advice that you give out?
Where my mind went with that question was years ago. I had a caller send me an email saying, hey, I'm thinking about getting into calling, and I've studied a bit. I'm going to be a caller. Do you have any words of wisdom you would give me? Okay. And I thought long and hard about that because I thought that was a real serious question. So the basis of what I sent him back was the first line of it was, stay true to your dancers. They pay your freight. Gotcha. And the second line was, take anything CALLERLAB says with a grain of salt. And he met up with me at a CALLERLAB and at some point, and I wish I remember his name. I can't right now. He approached me and he said, I've now been calling a little over 20 years. He says, what you told me, I printed out, I wrote down, or he wrote it down. He said, I've got it in my wallet. I look at it every day. And I said, well, I would adjust something there. And when I said, take everything CALLERLAB says with a grain of salt, I would say, take anything CALLERLAB, ACA, Roundalab, or any club board or any elected organization says with a grain of salt. Those decisions were made by political vote. Those rules were not created by talent, with other people following the example. So that's basically it. Stay true to your dancers. I don't care what any other caller tells you. Stay true to your dancers. Your best you can. You got to learn there's all kinds of, you got to learn names. You know what's more important? Their cat's name.
Yep.
You know what's second importance? Their grandkid's name. I mean, there's a lady, and you got to have a little fun with it too.
Sure.
There's a lady that's a plus dancer that's part of this Friday night club that I go to, and there's a new dancer. They're enjoying time together. I don't think they're officially dating. They're both in their 80s, and she is blind, has a seeing eye dog, and he has to be trained on a certain side because the regular side, whatever that is, she had a stroke and that hand's bad, so she had to get a dog that was trained for the other side. And this is funny because the dog's name's Arlo, and when the harness is on Arlo, he's all business. But as soon as the harness comes off, he's a puppy.
Gotcha.
And so I walked up to her. Her name's Elaine, by the way. I want this officially on the video that I do remember her name because she did say the point. She says, everybody knows Arlo. Nobody knows my name. Everybody knows Arlo's name. I'm Elaine. I said, okay. So I filed that information away. And the next week I walked right up to her and I said, so how's Arlo's mommy today? It did make her laugh.
Yeah.
Her laugh. So now I call her Elaine every time I see her. I say, hi, Elaine, how you doing? But I had to have fun with that.
Sure.
But I made her laugh, and that was the point.
Mike, you've had some words of wisdom, brother. I appreciate all this, but there's another thing that if you haven't gotten to some of the ends of the videos, More about you. Do you consider yourself a movie guy, a TV guy? What do you like to do when you're not calling and you're hanging around the house?
Well, I'm a TV guy with stuff that stimulates my mind. So uh, now, for instance, I'm enjoying a season of The Voice now that Reba's one of the head coaches. I think she's an amazing talent.
Okay.
And so I'm enjoying that very, very much. I tend to watch Dateline, try to figure out how they got to this point, what gave it away, what did this, what did that, try to get my brain going.
Gotcha.
And so writing songs, one of like an upcoming project we're going to do. I've got my premier co-writer, and I'm his premier co-writer. We really are putting out some top-notch stuff. So we've got one, and now that he's got to get used to his dentures, he's going to wait to sing. But we're going to do a demo of me and my key and him and his key, and then we're going to join Music Row magazine. You may not know what that is.
I do not.
But I looked it up. The subscription to their hot sheet is, I think, $190 a year, and it comes out once a week. Mm-hmm. And anybody who's looking for a song and wants to do that posts there. So Blake Shelton needs 2 more songs for his next project. He'll post there, and they'll give a little description of what he's looking for. They may have a new artist you've never heard of. But they give a description of here, they want material like this or like that. And so you want to have where you can send them stuff. You got to have that information current. Mm-hmm. And so it comes out every Friday. And so that's what we want to do is join. But I figured we got to have 3 songs in the stable that we definitely have prepared to do, like I just said.
Sure. Okay.
So we've got one, and it was kind of funny. Got some music done real well, but I wanted to cut the vocal right away. And we were going to see Janet's sister and husband in is it Rochester, New York? It's in New York. I forgot exactly where. Anyway, I found a studio there. It's about 10 minutes from their house. And these recording studios usually are in some old building that looks like it's an abandoned Goodwill store.
Sure. Kind
of thing. And you go inside and there's $600,000 worth of sound equipment in there. Well sounded. I mean, they can have a band in there and you can't hear anything outside. And so they had my premier way to record. I'm either going to sing over a Neumann U87, which is the classic studio microphone. It's warm, it's great. So they had that through a Neve processor, and it just did wonders. So I got my vocal. I got it in one take.
Very nice.
So we got that done. So that's the project that we hope will someday pay off a little bit too.
Let's hope it does, man. That's awesome. You just got to get a couple more so you got 1 in the boot and 2 more to go.
Yeah, and I've got a whole bunch that nobody will ever hear.
Okay. Well, before we get off, let me ask you this. And I don't know a whole lot about the music, writing music, or writing songs and lyrics and things like that. Who are some of your favorite singer-songwriters? I mean, artists that I might know. I mean, if you just named songwriters, I wouldn't know them. But what do you think?
Okay, a singer-songwriter in today's world is kind of different because everybody's co-writing. There's 3 and 4 and 5 writers on these songs, and basically these new artists will come in and they might have a bag full of words, and the writer will say, well, what are the important words here to you, and what kind of story do you want to tell? And then the pros will put it together and for a piece of the action.
Okay,
that's kind of how that works. So I kind of lost the question though. That was the
singer-songwriters. Some of your favorites.
Oh, well, all time probably is Tom T. Hall.
Oh, okay. Good one.
And I love the stories behind these songs. Basically, Stonewall Jackson wanted a prison song because Johnny Cash had just had a major career resurgence with Folsom Prison Blues. Mm-hmm. Everybody's trying to record prison songs. And Tom T. Hall in an interview said, I thought, I've never been to prison. I can only write about what I've done, what I got experiences, but I have been in jail. So he wrote a song called "A Week in a Country Jail," and nobody would record it, so he recorded it himself. That became his first radio hit, and it's a true story. A Week in a Country Jail. It's a true story. And it was actually, I read about an article. He was in Shepherdsville, Kentucky. He was going through and he was speeding, and they put him in jail, and the circuit judge was tied up with a snowstorm, and he was supposed to be there overnight. He was there a week. And it's a true story. Yeah. So this whole song is great. So I like, and Harlan Howard.
Harlan Howard.
You know, I think he was a guitar player for Buck Owens back in the days when they tied the bass to the top of the car and the guitars rode in your lap in the back seat. And he was trying to become a writer. And he said, Buck, you got to sing some of my songs. He says, well, write something I want to sing. They drove by an Esso station. And they had the Tiger back then.
Okay.
Put a tiger in your tank. He says, there, that tiger, put a tiger in your tank. Write a song about that. I've got a tiger by the tail, it's plain to see. That was his first big hit. Buck Owens cut that one.
Wow. That's good.
So Reba, her first radio hit, she was, Harlan Howard was, somehow she was told to go over to his house. And he played a song for her, and she says, okay, we got anything else? He said, if you don't like that one, I got nothing for you. So she took it. That was her first radio hit. It was when whoever's in New England's through with you. If you remember that song.
I do remember that song.
That was Harlan Howard. So just amazing. He actually did a performance on Hee Haw. You're watching some of the old reruns, and he sang little portions of every song. I was calling square dances here in Mesa years ago. I was out in Gold Canyon. There was a dancer, and I told the story of Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer a little bit, and then did the singing call. And he came up after the tip, and he says, I had a song on the radio back in the day. You ever heard the song, The Keys in the Mailbox? Keys in the mailbox, come on in.
I haven't heard that one.
That is an old country song. It went #1 for that nobody singer, that guy. He said they wanted him to tour, but he was a teacher in Wisconsin, living so far north in Wisconsin, Canada was actually south of him. He says, there's no way. And he had kids, and he didn't want to tour. So he really never got his career going. But that song, and it was a Harlan Howard song.
Great day.
Harlan Howard.
Mike, man, like we were talking earlier, first of all, I had no idea we were going to get into this. Like I said, I've just known you from a handful of conversations we've had at a couple of conventions lately. Because before that, I didn't know a whole lot of people because I've only been going to conventions and caller labs and national conventions for about 6 years now. So first couple of years, I was just kind of standing in the back of the room, not talking to anybody because I didn't know anybody. Now I know a few of the people that are popular with the groups, and so I get around and I get to talk to you and stuff like that. Man, I could go all night talking to you. I don't want to go more than an hour or so because, like I said, I am not Joe Rogan. People don't want to look at my face for 3 hours. I'll tell you that. So I want to do this again, but before we get off, I'm gonna do some work. This is gonna come out in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But so it's ArizonaCaller.com or it's AZCaller.com.
My email address is arizonacaller@gmail.com.
Okay, I got that. And give me your website.
azcaller.com.
And I know you can get to it from that, but give me your cruise site again.
cruisewithmike.com. And the YouTube channel.
Yep.
It'll be one of the things that pops up. There'll be a lot of choices, but it's the @ sign, and you have to go to YouTube and put that in the search bar.
Right.
@musicman123, and look for that half-hour teaching demonstration.
Okay. And if I ever happen to get onto Amazon or anything like that, or Pinterest, I can look for Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer.
I don't think so. I don't think it's available on Amazon. You can check. I
I'll
know.
Google it. I'll find it. So I'm going to wear it to the next national convention, brother. You're just going to see somebody walking through the lobby.
It showed up on Facebook a few years back. There was some listener. Do you know who Dr. Demento is?
I know who it is. I've never listened to him, but I know the story because I know Weird Al was a big fan of that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's comedy radio. It's a syndicated radio program. He has a Christmas program.
Okay.
And somebody recorded songs off of his broadcast, and they created their own personal favorite all-time top 10 Christmas comedy songs.
Okay.
Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer came in number 4.
Nice.
I'm telling you, that song will not die.
Mike
And they played it on the BBC for years. I'd go over there to Britain Call in September. This guy says, "You got to sing that singing call." I said, "It's September. It's not Christmas." But the 5th time I was there, he says, "Do that song." It's okay. I did tell the story. So I did Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer when I was there in September because he heard it every Christmas on the BBC.
Yeah,
and it was all across Canada too, because I think Steve Edlund, the caller, had an uncle or something that was doing the truckers radio broadcast,
right?
All-nighter, like Ralph Emery is doing in America.
Mm-hmm.
So he got him to play it. So everybody who's driving all night, they heard that Christmas. They heard Bradley the Brown-Nosed Reindeer.
That's awesome. Mike, it has been a pleasure, brother. I hope to run into you sometime before, but if not, it'll be at the next national convention, I'm sure. And down the road, but I will get this out, and hopefully we can get some people. I would love some people to get on there and look at some of that teaching stuff, because I think teaching is a huge part of keeping square dancing going as much as the entertainment part of it.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Mike, it's been a pleasure, brother. I will talk to you
here.
soon. Yeah,
all
man.
right,
I'll
Charlie.
talk to you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.